decade's embarrassing. The Steelers in the last decade have lost, with Tomlin and Big Ben, lost to Tebow, lost to Bortles. Baker Mayfield just dropped 48 on their arse. Annihilated by Brady. Beaten by an old Peyton Manning. It's embarrassing. Well, since the Seahawks Super Bowl lost in New England 7 years ago, they've got 5 losses. They can't beat the good teams in the playoff. Even their wins are ugly. They beat Minnesota 10-9 because, Blair Walsh missed like a chip shot field goal. They beat Detroit. They beat 17-9 over Philly because Carson Wentz got hurt. So Seattle's got a little bit of a problem here. And Seattle and Pittsburgh are very similar. You've got a defensive-minded head coach, charismatic, Tomlin, Pete Carroll, with Super Bowls. You got quarterbacks, Russell and Ben, that won Super Bowls early in their career and now are very expensive, limiting what teams can do. So I do think, when Seattle lost to Jared Goff playing on one thumb, it's like that's a problem. So the Steelers have a 10-year closing the season problem. The Seahawks have a 7-year closing the season problem. Now, the good news for Seattle fans, whereas Ben is not obsessed, his off seasons are, Bud Light, family time with the kids, an occasional yoga class. People joke about that. Russell Wilson, I think, is the difference here, is he is so driven, so willful, so aspirational that I don't think this will become what they are. That's what Pittsburgh is now. Pittsburgh can't finish. Details aren't very good. Ben's audible system is, simplistic. They don't put the time in the offseason. They try to play themselves into shape. And they can be good, but in the end, they just keep at the end of the year not delivering. Seattle's getting into that space, but I think Russell will get them out of that. Okay, something else to talk about. It's become bizarre. It is, baseball tends to be, of all our sports, a little slow to change. It's very much steeped in history and lore and tradition. And, people who, are they come from these big families, going to the same camps, same churches, same neighborhood. You get in that kind of tunnel of tradition. It's hard to break out. So baseball should probably have figured this out in the off season, not in the middle of a season, but that's sort of baseball and whatever. So they have a little bit of an issue in that baseballs are slick. In fact, I'm sure most of you know this, some may not. Every baseball, before it gets given to an umpire, gets rubbed down with dirt. That's what you have to do because you gotta make it easier for a pitcher to, otherwise they'll slip out of your hand. And pitchers for years, they lick their fingers. They're trying to get grip on it. Well, what has happened, they're using this thing, many believe for the last couple of years, called the tack, which is what weightlifters use. So what it does is you use that tack on it and the spin rate increases and it's like a Bugs Bunny curveball. Nobody can hit. The average has dropped to 237. Like literally nobody can hit. And then baseball about a month ago said, okay, we're going to start checking stuff. And the averages went up. Because I do believe that very punitive punishment, at least in athletics, maybe not society, right? Very punitive punishment with sports. We're taking away your money. We're taking away your season. There's peer pressure. Remember COVID in the NBA? None of the players tested positive. And that was the fear. What are these young guys, girls? Why? Because of the peer pressure to not screw up your team. We're all in this together. Don't screw it up. Lou Williams got crushed for getting chicken wings in Atlanta, right? It literally hurt his brand. He got, let's move him out of town. So I do think if you just said, all right, you get caught with this stuff, you're out. You think Garrett Cole wants to ruin the Yankees season? Max Scherzer wants to ruin the Nats season? I do think there is a really cool thing about men's and women's sports at the highest level. You don't want to screw your teammates. So I just think baseball has to come out and say, we're going to be harsh. You get caught with this stuff, you're out. You're out for the year. Whether we pay you or not, you disappointed your team, and guys would stop. But last night it was a circus. They're checking guys, stop and frisk guys. The guys are making fun of them. You got Joe Girardi is checking on Max Scherzer, and Scherzer's, one of the best pitchers in the decade. He's now furious with it, and Joe Girardi is saying, "Well, and then they start challenging each other. They want to fight, and Joe Girardi. Can you imagine Belichick or Phil Jackson challenging somebody to a fight? It was horrible. It was embarrassing. It was an eyesore. So both of them talked about it afterwards.
I've seen Max a long time, since 2010. Obviously, he's going to be a Hall of Famer. But I've never seen him wipe his head like he was doing tonight, ever. Going like this, right? So it was suspicious for me. He did it about 4 or 5 times. It was suspicious. I didn't mean to offend anyone. I just got to do what's right for our club.
If everybody's on the same playing field, you got to find a way to get over it. Everybody's dealing with this. So, when you're on the mound, you can't make any excuses. You guys got to go through it. I'd have to be an absolute fool to actually use something tonight when everybody's intent is so far high to look for anything. So, it is what it is. Whatever. Turn the page, move on.
I mean, we all slow down when we see a cop on the side of the road. Max Scherzer was not going to be using it last night. There's no way. If you're using it now, you're a moron. Max Scherzer's not a moron. It's the classic cop song. You see the cop, everybody slows down. I never speed. Hello, officer, I never speed. Nobody's going to use this stuff now, because I do believe it's as simple as just hand down strong punishment. And we saw it with COVID. NBA guys are like, I'm not leaving. Lou Williams got crushed for it. And then the Clippers didn't play as well. Lou Williams gets blamed. You're not going to have these star pitchers. Garrett Cole, DeGrom's not going to implode a season for the Mets are finally good. Do I roll my eyes? Am I a little suspicious at some of these ERAs? Yeah, when people can't foul the ball off. But, it's also bad optics to be frisking players. I'll give you an example. Years ago, United had a flight. Airlines overbook everybody. And years ago, United was dragging somebody off a plane. They'd overbooked. It was so bad for United. Now, this is the way airlines, this is why when you go in a plane, they're always asking, we'll give you 2 free tickets if you will not go on this. Every flight I'm on, they ask that, right? Because airlines overbook. So you got to have an understanding. If somebody really needs to be in the flight, they want to be in the flight. Like, you can't drag them off. And so this is bad optics. The NFL catch rule, why did they change it? Because the optics were horrible. You'd see a guy catch it, and then you go to replay, and because the ball moved near his elbow like an inch, you'd be like, that's not a catch. Remember Roger Goodell came in the show, and I'm like, Mr. Commissioner, these are catches. And he's like, I know. It looks terrible. We've got to change it. This frisking thing is so embarrassing looking. Stop it. Do it, by the way, as they walk off the mound. Grab them in the dugout if you have to. Don't have them frisking right in the middle of a game. It looks, and these guys, listen, cheaters know when to cheat, right? If these guys are